One thing I forgot, there's a heat shield on the driver's side. I ran across it in a box. It was actually the box that I had the engine mounts in, and I just forgot about it. And it guards that. It's a heat shield that goes on the engine mount. It bolts to the bolts that mount the engine mount to the block, and what it does is it guards the exhaust manifolds closer where it turns down on this side than it is on the other side, and so it guards. It's just a heat shield for that engine mount to keep the heat off the exhaust manifold, you know, from getting on the engine mount. So I'm gonna have to deal with that and put it back on. And the bolts for that, they're, you know, between the cross member under the manifold and between the cross member, you know, in the engine. All right, success. I got that thing on, and I did not remove the exhaust manifold. I got to thinking, I was like, well, let me remove the oil filter and I can get in here, and I did. And between a 5/8 ratchet wrench and two 5/8 boxed in wrenches, I was able to get it out. Now, I say two 5/8 because I could only, like with the ratchet wrench, when I could use the ratchet wrench, I'd get about one click out of it. And that was about it. And so I used that, you know, just click, 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 working on them. And then when I couldn't use the ratchet wrench, I could use a boxed in wrench, but I couldn't get enough of a turn to get the wrench back on it. So I'd switch to another wrench that would have the hex, you know, a little different location. So I could turn that one, you know, like a half of a, well, whatever, a 12 point, half of a 12 point turn, whatever, 12 divided into 360. That was probably how much of a revolution I got out of it, was half of that, and then switched to the other wrench. And I got it. I still think that was quicker than taking the manifold off. Even if I got to thinking about it, even if I took the manifold off, it was still going to be tight because it'd be easier to get them off, but the guard itself would be in the way. Trying to put them back on, so decided to go ahead and just try it without it. And yeah, that's what we got. So happy with that, and happy it's back on there. It took me about 20 minutes, so really not that bad. And I would have spent more time, definitely would have spent more time with the manifold. It would have been slightly easier, but more time, so I'm all for saving time, and it wasn't that bad. So I'm gonna pop the oil filter back on, and then we can proceed on. I think while I'm under here, I'll get the bottom radiator hose and get the fuel lines hooked up, and that will do it for, I think, under the front here. I may, may go ahead and hook the ground cable up. Y'all are upside down, but it's the easiest way to show it. Go ahead and hook the ground cable up. Does it go right here? I don't think it goes right there. It goes right here. So go ahead and do that. And then this goes, I guess, with the ground cable. Yep, that goes with the ground cable. And we will come over here and go ahead and hook the starter up, I guess. Yeah, that goes with the ground cable. I got a new ground cable to put on. So I'll go ahead and do all that. And I think there's a ground cable on the back of the head while I'm doing that. And then I'm gonna jack the back of the car up, and that will help when we're doing the transmission linkages and all that, and the drive shaft, exhaust, and all that stuff. So that's kind of where we are, just picking away at this little stuff. So yeah, let me continue on. And that is loose because we need to get weight on the front end, and then we can tighten those up on both sides. I'm gonna leave all that loose until we get this thing down on the ground. All right, working on the exhaust, and we're stepping up to 3-inch for now. The tailpipe's gonna still be 2.5. So after the muffler, it'll be 2.5. And eventually, I get caught up on this project because it's over budget. I'll take it and get a pipe made to go from the tailpipe made, a 3-inch tailpipe. But I was hoping I could do a straight shot. So what we're doing is after the Y pipe, we are bumping it up to 3-inch, going into 3-inch muffler. It's not ideal, ideally, you would dual it out or whatever, but we're doing this on a budget. And so I was hoping I could do a straight shot with the 3-inch, but I can't. Hits the floorboard. And so took this to the muffler shop and had them match that bend on 3-inch. So I should be able to pop this piece in, and that'll get us clear of our floorboards, and hopefully we'll be in good shape. So let's I'll show you what we've got. And sorry for the squeaky fan, but it's hot outside and I'm gonna leave it running. So I'll show you what we got. All right, so I still got the Y pipes loose because I want to be able to move this around. Just got it sitting on a jack stand, but the nuts are started, they're just not run up tight. So when the Y pipe merges, we're stepping it up. I cut it off about as close as I could get it, and got this, all this needs to be clamped, but we were just mocking up 2-inch to 3-inch adapter going to a 3-inch pipe that runs over here and hits the floorboard right here, and then into our muffler. So what we're going to do now is we're going to put that piece of pipe here that will jot this over, and the muffler's kind of in a bind as well, and so that'll allow the muffler to go back that way a little bit, and we should clear the floor right here. It's right here, it's hitting. So let me get that and bring y'all back, and we're gonna have to cut this shorter. Okay, let me show you what we got. So there's the Y pipe. Again, sorry for the fan. Here's the Y pipe, and we're adapting up to 3-inch right there. And that 3-inch pipe goes along here to this bend, and I put the drive shaft in it because I knew I had to clear the drive shaft. I actually got the exhaust in where I think I wanted it, and then put the drive shaft in. And then I had to tweak it a little bit. I was having a little issues with this clamp, or this crimp right here. It's not very, when I had the exhaust or the muffler shop flare it, they didn't go very deep. And so I was having some issues. They didn't go very deep, and it's not expanded out quite enough. So I was having some issues with it, so I went ahead and put this I had to hammer with the wood block this pipe into here and then clamped it. But I ended up having to tweak, I had to loosen this because I was up against the drive shaft when I put the drive shaft in. So I loosened this clamp and then was able to kick it over. I put a wood block between the exhaust and the drive shaft, and went and tightened everything down, tightened these down, and then took the wood block out. And we are really close to the floor right there. We're about, we've got a little over a 1/4 inch. I can move if I try to move it, it's not moving that much. I don't know, when the engine torques over, it may hit. We'll see. If it does, no problem. We can loosen this clamp off a little bit, and there's some flex in that joint, and we'll kick it closer to the drive shaft I was mainly worried about drive shaft clearance, but we ended up with more than I probably needed. We got about an inch, three quarters of an inch or so, maybe. And you can see where my clamp was up against the drive shaft. And then, of course, we come along and we go back down to 2.5. So that's what we're gonna eventually have to address, is try to get a new tailpipe made for it. But for now, this is what we've got. So we got plenty of floor clearance with the muffler. It turned out, I think, pretty good. I mean, for just kind of cobbling it together and just, I didn't take the car down to get this bend made. I just took that old bend and worked out well. So yeah, and we've got plenty of clearance all around, so no issues. Now I still got to finish bolting the drive shaft up, but it's for the most part done. Well, it's loosely bolted to check clearance. Anyway, so what we've got, you're curious about that white stuff there. I had a squeak in the drive shaft, and I think these are constant velocity joints. They're not, well, double cardon joints is actually, I think, what they're called. They're not CV joints, but I think, yeah, double cardon, I think. It's two U joints, but there's like a ball and socket type thing between them that kind of, keeps them really from, it just controls how they flex, maybe. Is that quite the right word for it? So it's not just, you couldn't have two without that, because it would just be floppy. Yeah, anyway. I have the U joints feel tight, they feel good. I think maybe that ball and socket joint between them may have been squeaking. So I went ahead and just sprayed some white lithium grease. I originally had planned on just replacing the U joints, but I really just don't want to dig into that right now. And so I sprayed it. We'll see what that does. But like I said, they're tight and they don't feel like they have rough spots in them. Moving them by hand, I don't feel any issues. So I'm not gonna change them out yet. So we sprayed them. We'll see what that does. But what we've got left, we've got to finish bolting up the drive shaft, and then I think we got to hook up the starter wires, and then I think we're done underneath. So here's what it looks like up top. I've got the radiator hoses hooked up. Still got to hook up the heater hoses, put the carburetor on it, and I don't have plugs in it yet, or the wires, so we still got that to go. I'm not going to put the plugs in it right off. I'm going to crank it over without the plugs and put a timing light on it, and that way it cranks over a little faster, so we can kind of dial the timing in a little bit, and that'll help us, get this thing where it just starts right up, and we can go right to breaking in the camshaft. That's my goal. I want to have a quick, easy startup. I don't want to be cranking this thing over a ton, and we'll crank it over without the plugs in it, and that'll get it cranking over faster to get our timing a little closer to being right. So yeah, I got what all did I do today up here? I did the radiator hoses. I did all the heater hose, or the power steering return hoses. I replaced this one, and this one, and this one came with the hose we bought. So that's done. We're gonna have to put fluid in it, Technically, I think we could put transmission fluid in it now, but I'm not going to do that until I completely bolt up the drive shaft to make sure I don't have to pull it out for something. So we'll wait to do that. And yeah, like I said, I think that's got it. I've got an oil pressure gauge hooked up instead of the dummy light right now. So when we crank it up, we'll know exactly what it is. I hooked up the fuel lines underneath and hooked up the alternator, ground wire, alternator, and the ground wire. And I replaced the, or I say ground wire, ground cable. I replaced the ground cable. Got us a new one. Because I did not like the, should have gotten a positive as well, but it's okay for now. I didn't like the repair terminal that we had on our ground. It was there prior to me. And I, oddly enough, or surprisingly enough, or however you want to say it, there were three, it had an intermediate pipe. I guess it was clamped with the bend. That one was clamped. It went from the Y pipe straight, and then it had that curved pipe clamped on, and then a clamp on each end of the muffler. And I was able to save all three of those muffler clamps. So we reused two of them. We only needed two and a halves. And I needed, four 3-inch clamps. And I got, I was able to find two made in USA and two made in India clamps. So that's what we've got for exhaust muffler clamps. And this was that ground cable I replaced. I had an issue with this repair terminal, so I didn't want to go back with that. So yeah, and it's not the best looking cable anyway. So I've been on the lookout for a Edelbrock 1411 for the 460 to step up from our 1406. It's a 600 CFM versus 1411 750. With the mods we've done to the engine, I think we'd be choking it off with the 600. And so kept looking, ended up just buying one on eBay. They're much harder to find than a 1406. I picked up my 1406, I think for 20 bucks on Marketplace. But eBay ended up being the best buy I could find after searching for a while. And so it was, said it was in good condition, rebuilt, ready to run. And I just always, when I get a carburetor, no matter what, I like to just open it up and go through it just to see what we've got, and mainly for tuning ability. So I want to see what rods and jets it has, so that while it's running, we can start tuning. And if we need to step up or step down, and I need to order some jets or rods, if I don't have them. I've got this calibration kit, but it's 1406. So jet's probably a little small. But anyway, if I need to order anything, we'll have it. We'll know what we were. And, Edelbrock's got a nice chart. I'll show you. So this is just the manual from their site. It's good to print this thing out, because what it gives you is this chart. So we've got stock calibration here. And from stock, you can kind of go, if you need, you can kind of follow along to see where you need to step, and it'll tell you the combination of rods and jets you need to do. So it just helps you tune it. But you need to know what you've got starting off. Of course, it's nice if you can start at somewhere that's actually on the chart, preferably stock. And that's what I was hoping we would find when we tore into this, was, basically a stock jets and rods. And we are. So if you don't know, you read, I'd recommend, if you're gonna be doing this, one of these guys helps out a lot. So when you're going in here to try to read these jets, yeah, it's kind of hard to do this on camera, but because the camera doesn't want to focus. But anyway, Lighted magnifying glass is great. Maybe my eyes aren't what they used to be, but I mean, I can't. I've got good eyes. I've got 20/20 vision, and trying to read this from down in there, just my eyes don't. They can't do that. Anyway, so you've got a part number. I think they do. It's like a 120-407 or whatever, or that's what this has on it. And so you take that 407 and you subtract it from 300. That gives you your jet size. So secondaries are 107, and then we had a 410. So 410 minus 300 is 110. So we got a 0.110 jet size on the primaries, and our rod was a 75/47, and that's the steps on the rod. If you can see, that's what those steps measure. And so this is completely stock. If you look, going back to our 1411, that's a 1412 calibration chart, but let's see, 1411 is in here. Yeah, 1411 calibration chart. It also gives you your jet sizes, stock calibration, 75/47 with a 110 main jet. And then we go to secondaries, and we've got a 107. And then they should also tell you somewhere in here on the squirters for the accelerator pump. Somewhere. Anyway, I ran across it somewhere because I don't see it, but somewhere I ran across it. It is a 35, which is stock, and so we're good there. So, yeah. And then I'll check the float level before I put it back together. Everything else looks good. This thing looks really clean inside. Really happy with it. So we'll get it all put back together, and then I'll just document. Well, we just know it's stock, so that makes it easy. And so if we need to make adjustments, we can easily do that. And this chart is nice. So just want to show you all that. This is where we're going to end this video. In the next video, we should be doing the first startup. So be sure to look for that video next week. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment down below, hit the like button, and subscribe for more.